Shiva, the god of paradox, Hindu mythology. How can one god be all of that at once? How can destruction be holy? And why do people across centuries look to Shiva, not just for power, but for peace? In the next few minutes, you'll understand the three images that define him: the blue throat, the third eye, and the cosmic dance. And once you see what they really mean, Shiva stops being a mystery and starts feeling like a map. Who Shiva is. In Hindu mythology, Shiva is often described as part of the Trimurti, Brahma the creator, Vishnu the preserver, and Shiva the transformer, the one who brings things to an end. But calling Shiva the destroyer can be misleading if you imagine simple violence or chaos. Because Shiva's destruction isn't about ruining the world. It's about ending what can't continue: illusion, arrogance, imbalance, stagnation. He is the force that clears the old so the new can be born. That's why Shiva is worshipped as Mahadeva, the great god. Not just a character in myths, but a cosmic principle. Stillness and storm, silence and thunder, gentleness and fury, held in one being. And if that sounds contradictory, good. Shiva is the god of contradiction, because reality itself is full of it. Origins and identity, Rudra, the Wild One. Before Shiva is the calm master of meditation, he is connected to something older, Rudra. A fierce, untamed presence of storm, wilderness, and raw power. Rudra is the howl of the wind in a dead forest. The sudden lightning split that reminds you the sky isn't safe. But he's also linked to healing, because the same force that can break you can also remake you. Shiva inherits that wildness. And that's why in so many stories he lives in places most gods avoid. Mountains, lonely caves, cremation grounds. To an ordinary mind, that looks dark. But symbolically, it's simple. Shiva sits where endings are undeniable, where ego doesn't survive, where titles, wealth, and pride burn away. He is the god who stares at death without blinking and teaches you that fear is just another illusion you can outgrow. Iconography Decoder, the Shiva Kit. To understand Shiva fast, you don't just need stories. You need to read his symbols. Because every statue and painting is basically a coded message. Let's decode the essentials. First, the third eye. It isn't a cool superpower, it represents insight. The ability to see truth so clearly that illusion can't survive. Then the trident, the Trishula. 3 points. Often read as mastery over time, past, present, future. Or over the great cycles, creation, preservation, transformation. In his hand, you may see a small drum, the damaru. That's rhythm, pulse, the beat of existence itself. Creation begins not with a speech, but with a vibration. On his head, a crescent moon. Time moves through phases, through change. But Shiva wears time like an ornament. Time doesn't control him. In his hair, the river Ganga flows. A force so powerful it could drown the world. And Shiva channels it gently, turning overwhelming power into life-giving flow. Around his neck, a snake, often linked to Vaski. Not just danger, but fearlessness. A reminder that Shiva has mastered what most people run from: death, poison, the unknown. And on his body, ash. Because everything becomes ash. Ash is the great equalizer. Shiva wears it not as despair, but as liberation. A reminder not to cling. Beside him stands Nandi the bull, strength, devotion, steadiness. And then there is the Shiva Lingam, one of the most misunderstood symbols. In the simplest, respectful sense, the lingam represents the formless divine, the infinite power of existence itself, beyond human shape. It is not about reducing Shiva to one idea. It is about expanding your mind beyond form. If you can read these symbols, you can read Shiva anywhere, even before the story begins. Myth versus meaning. Quick reality check. Shiva isn't a villain, and he isn't destruction for fun. In these myths, destruction is sacred when it removes what's false. Like burning poison out of a wound, Shiva's power is transformation. He ends what must end, so life can move forward. The poison in the blue throat, Neelkanth. Now we arrive at the image of Shiva that almost everyone recognizes, the blue throat. The story begins with a cosmic crisis. Gods and demons churn the ocean of milk, searching for a divine treasure, something that can restore balance and bring renewal. But when you churn the depths of existence, you don't only pull out gifts. You pull out what has been buried. And from the ocean rises a poison so deadly that it threatens everything. Not just one kingdom, but the entire world. The gods panic. The demons recoil. No one wants to claim the poison, because to touch it is to die. And then Shiva appears. No grand speech. No negotiation. He takes the poison into himself. In many tellings, the poison is so intense, it would destroy creation if it spreads. So Shiva holds it in his throat, containing it, and his neck turns blue. That's why he is called Neelkanth, the blue-throated one. But here's the deeper meaning. Shiva's greatness isn't just that he drank poison, it's that he contained it. Shiva represents the power to hold darkness without becoming it. To face toxicity, fear, grief, rage, suffering, and transform it instead of spreading it. Because the real poison in the world isn't only in oceans. It's in words, in hatred, in unchecked pain passed from one person to another. And Shiva shows the highest form of strength. Not conquest, but responsibility. The third eye, when calm, becomes cosmic fire. If the blue throat shows Shiva's compassion, the third eye shows his terrifying clarity. Shiva is often pictured in meditation, silent, unmoving, beyond desire. But don't confuse stillness with weakness. A mountain is still too. In myth, Shiva's calm can last for ages, until something threatens the balance of existence, or until arrogance grows so large it blocks the light. And in those moments, Shiva's response isn't petty punishment, it's correction. The third eye opens, and what it releases is not mere fire. It is the burning away of illusion. In some stories, a being's pride becomes so inflated that it believes itself untouchable. In others, desire and obsession attempt to control Shiva, to drag the infinite into a cage. But the moment Shiva truly sees, the moment the third eye opens, the falsehood cannot survive. It's a frightening lesson, but a clean one. Truth is not always gentle. Sometimes truth destroys the life you were living, because the life you were living was built on illusion. Shiva's third eye is that moment when you can't lie to yourself anymore. And that's why he's feared and worshipped. Because deep down, everyone knows. The ego wants comfort, but the soul wants truth. Icon quiz. Mini quiz. If you see a figure with a crescent moon in the hair, a river flowing from the head, ash on the skin, and a serpent coiled around the neck, you're almost certainly looking at Shiva. These aren't random decorations. They're a visual language: time, power, impermanence, fearlessness. Nataraja, the cosmic dance, Tandava. Now we reach the most philosophical and visually famous form of Shiva, Nataraja, Lord of the Dance. In this form, Shiva is not sitting in stillness. He is motion itself. The dance is called the Tandava, a rhythm that contains creation and destruction in the same movement. In the classic image, Shiva dances within a circle of flame, one foot raised, one foot pressing down. The raised foot is liberation, release from ignorance. The foot pressing down crushes delusion, often symbolized as a small figure underfoot, representing forgetfulness, illusion, the mind asleep to truth. One hand may hold the damaru drum, creation's pulse. Another may hold fire, destruction, transformation. Another hand gestures, as if to say, "Do not fear." and another points toward the lifted foot. This is the way out. Nataraja is Shiva's greatest lesson in one image. Reality is not static. Everything dances. Atoms, seasons, empires, your own emotions, your own identity. And the path to peace isn't stopping the dance. It's learning how to move with it without clinging. Shiva doesn't hate the world. He keeps it alive by keeping it moving. Shiva and Parvati, stillness meets power. Here's another paradox that defines Shiva. He is the ultimate ascetic and also a husband and father. Enter Parvati, often understood as Shakti, the divine power of the universe. If Shiva is pure consciousness, silent, vast, unchanging, then Shakti is energy, motion, creativity, life. Together they form a complete cosmic picture: awareness and power, stillness and expression. Their union isn't just romance. It's metaphysics in story form, and it's also deeply human. In many myths, Shiva's love is not possessive or shallow. It's the kind of love that recognizes the sacred in another being, and the kind of devotion that doesn't break when life becomes messy. This is why Shiva isn't only worshipped in caves and mountains. He is worshipped in homes, in villages, in crowded cities, because his story holds both the solitude of meditation and the noise of family life. And that's a message people still need. Spirituality isn't only leaving the world behind. It can also mean living in it with clarity. Why Shiva still matters. The takeaway. Shiva remains one of the most loved deities in Hindu tradition because he feels close. In many stories, he's direct, simple, even surprisingly approachable. He's sometimes called Bholanath, the innocent-hearted Lord, because he responds to sincere devotion, not fancy status. One of the biggest celebrations dedicated to him is Shivaratri, a night of focus, devotion, and inner discipline. People stay awake, chant, reflect, and symbolically renew themselves, as if to say, let the old me end, let something truer begin. And that brings us to Shiva's final gift, a practical lesson you can carry even if you're just here for mythology. Shiva teaches 3 things. First, the strength to contain poison, to face darkness without spreading it. Second, the courage to open the third eye, to let truth burn away what's false. Third, the wisdom of the cosmic dance, to accept change and move with it. Shiva destroys, but only so you can be reborn. The paradox line. Remember this line. Shiva lives among ashes, not because life is meaningless, but because he knows what is eternal when everything else falls away. Final thoughts. So if you ever hear Shiva the Destroyer, remember what the myths are really saying. He destroys illusion, arrogance, and what can't last. So what is real can finally breathe. If you want to follow up, tell me in the comments which form of Shiva we should explore next. Nataraja, Ardhanarishvara, or Shiva as the Supreme Yogi. And if you enjoyed this journey through Hindu mythology, like the video, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next story.